And we're back in here. Martino Buccio, Miguel AJ reunited for the first time, and we were not champions last time. I think we spoke on a streaming podcast like this. So
That is
a
true.
lot has changed. I think the last time was when we clinched against Atalanta top four, or maybe sometime during the summer. But either way, my goodness, glad to be back with you, man. Santangelo not here today because he is employed. Not to say Miguel isn't, but when you have time at 11 a.m. on the East Coast. But anyways, how are you, man? How's everything been? You're a big time MLS guy now, right?
Yeah, everything's good. Just gearing up for a second MLS season in the book. So a lot of crunch time planning for the season up ahead. But I'm excited to see what the season is going to bring.
Yeah. Unfortunate for Chicago that they did not win the World Cup like that one reporter expected them to. Was it when
Yeah.
Schweinsteiger joined? I mean, that's just like an all-time moment in trolling. But I gotta say, it's been a lot of fun watching you grow as a journalist. But I'm not gonna toot your horn too much because we have this big match today. Um, Miguel, I mean, listen, very tough draw and result of the weekend against Roma, considering how that went down. They have to turn their heads quickly, like they have to over the next few months. Like everybody is going to have to. So you can't hang your head too much on these results. Switching competitions now. We're playing like technically three different competitions the next 10 to 14 days. We've got Serie A, obviously this weekend against Lecce. Today, Torino, Milan, and Coppa Italia. Super Coppa next week with
Mhm.
Inter. And then obviously, back in February, there'll be the Champions League. So, Coppa Italia expectations. What do you want to see? Do you want to see this tournament finally be ours for the first time in 20 years?
It'd be nice to win this competition. I feel like for the last two seasons, like we had the momentum to win it, and we just had some minor details that didn't come to pass with us, and we just couldn't win it. Especially that one year, the COVID year, where we got knocked out by Juve by that one goal. I feel like that was the time that we really should have won it. But
Yeah, I think Ronaldo got a penalty. They gave a handball on Calabria.
mhm,
There's a year they were calling handballs for everybody.
yep,
Fabio's in here, by the way, because Milan's gonna make you drink. Yo, Fabio, it's Wednesday. I love you. I'm not in college anymore, man. And Sabrina's in
man,
here. Hey, Sabrina.
hey Sabrina.
Um, but yeah, we've reached the final a few times.
Hmm.
Been eliminated in semifinals as well. It's been kind of frustrating, I think. And then we lost in the semifinals last year to Inter. Inter went on to win the Supercoppa and the Coppa Italia, so it ended up being pretty successful for them. I don't know. For me, where Milan stands, there's a lot of season left. I kind of feel that it's Napoli's title to lose, and that Milan should kind of, try and get the quarterfinals in the Champions League, win this
Hmm.
competition, win Supercopa, and try and keep in it to the final days or the final weeks in Serie A. I mean, I feel like this is all doable, but how many times we have this conversation about injuries? I mean, right
Yeah.
now, this is kind of what might hurt Milan today. Uh, it's nice to get Leao that rest, Miguel, even Giroud, but if we don't have Rebic, we don't have Origi, we don't have the defenders to step up in here. Like Kier's not 100%. Krunic would be a
Hmm.
player that would step in this one. From the reported 11 that I've seen, I'll pull it up in a second. What do you want to see as an 11 here? Do you want CDK up top as the false nine in this formation? Or it would be Lacetic if they're not starting Giroud.
I think you give CDK a chance. This is a low risk game. You play with what you got because we have injuries and you got to make the most of what you can. I think this is a game that you could give CDK minutes so he can get some confidence. Um, and yeah, you just play with your cards as is. If things aren't going well, you make those super subs and you bring on Leao towards later on in the game. Hopefully, he snags your goal and it doesn't go into extra time. But right now, you just gotta play with the cards that you're dealt. And I think Pioli does a good job with doing that. We've seen in the past where we've had super detrimental injuries and we still manage to make it through. So I think right now you play CDK, you give your main guys some rest, and you hope for the best.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, again, it's at some point you have to, and you have to like gauge what the most important matches are. And I think for Pioli, he knows when you don't have Rebic or Origi. I mean, Torino at home should be something that they should be capable of grinding out a win. And again, it's kind of always interesting to see what these types of clubs like Torino value. At the end of the day, Serie A security, probably safe. Are they making a European spot? Probably not. Oh, we face Milan in Coppa Italia. Let's go all in for it. That's the annoying thing in these matches, especially when you're a bigger club like Milan. I mean, look what happened yesterday with Inter and Parma. I think Inter was terrible, but we're talking about a sixth place side in Serie B taking Inter to the 120th minute just to salvage a victory. Kudos to Parma. Shout out. Thank you. We needed Inter to play 120 minutes. I swear if we have to play 120 minutes today, I'm going to be pretty tight. But yeah, let's pull up this excuse me, this 11 that is expected of Milan. Um, so I'll try and zoom in as much as I can. It's not too kind to me, but anyways, you could see it here from what got you so mad. Tatarusanu, Kalulu, Tomori, Gabia, three at the back with a five midfield, kind of like wing backs with Dest and Salamakers, Pobega, Tonali, Bronx, Diaz, and Catalare. Again, Tonali probably going to be featuring a lot in this match because he's suspended this weekend. So I think that's
Right.
something fair to expect. Gabia, again, gets more minutes. He was subbed on late in the match against Roma, met with much criticism for Stefano Pioli.
Mhm.
Salamakers in this formation, probably best suited for him and his ability, especially all of his attributes, Miguel. I think wingback role is probably the best for him, regardless of what we think with his finishing abilities. I think this plays best to his attributes. Our guy Des,
Completely agree.
our fellow American on the left side. What do you think of that? I think that's. I know he's versatile in terms of his technique, but I mean, I'd rather have him gotten good on the right side before we move him to the left. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I would have preferred him on the right side as well, but from what I've seen, Dest is good at pushing the ball up and getting into the attacking third. So
Yeah.
maybe his role this game is just to push up the field and, dish it off to somebody in the box. And I think he can do that. So I'm not too worried about it. Hopefully everything goes well. And again, we are playing against Torino. They're not the greatest side ever. So there is still some hope for us.
Did beat us though earlier in the season. Away in Turin. Very
Hmm.
weird game that was. Milan's had a bunch of weird appearances on the road this season. Again, for me, I get it. Like you have to exhaust these options. There's no Krunic in the midfield. This is like kind of really where we're getting exposed with the midfield to a certain extent. And I kind of want to talk about that for a little bit because I want your thoughts on this. So Milan have, this midfield situation where you lose Kessie, obviously. It's a big loss regardless of how much money we think he's worth, where he's
Hmm.
going to play, how well he'll do in La Liga. Already rumors of him leaving. But again, it's a massive loss. The consistency in which he was able to play matches in, the level of play that he had the past 2.5 years was vital for Milan, especially in matches like this. It's against
Hmm.
Torino, really stepping up in games. But then we kind of pivoted to Pobega. Never played at a club like Milan like this. Had some pretty successful loan spells. Astor Franks, obviously a talented and unique player for Belgium at Wolfsburg with the option that we have. I mean, the oldest player here in the midfield is Pobega, I believe. So that says a lot. That says a lot with this. Miguel, you're gonna have these issues still. Which is kind of frustrating for Milan fans because Milan fans like to think we won the title, all these struggling situations and growing pains should cease to exist because we won the title. When in reality, we're still purchasing young players that haven't won what Milan had just won. So you're going to deal with a lot of dumb plays, dumb fouls that concede set pieces like Franks did. I'm not here to rip on these kids because is it necessarily their fault that they're in this situation? No. Would I blame more so management? Yeah, I think we could have used more experience. But again, The guy like Krunic is hurt. Um, what have you seen from the Pobega and Esther Frances of the world? They've had good cameos, they've had good appearances, and then you just see the stupid fouls where you're like, we just can't be having that because it's costing us defensively. So yeah, what have you thought?
I think all Milanisti have to put in perspective. This is a very young side, and we have some veteran players, but we don't have a lot. So,
Yeah,
given that these players are young, they're going to have some good performances. You're going to see, the talent that they have and how much they can grow. But we also have to be patient. You have to remember when Benacer came into Milan, he had 13 yellow cards in the first half of the season, which was insane. But the thing with the young players is the more playing time that they get, the less stupid mistakes that they get. So it's kind of it's kind of hard because Pioli's like, I don't want to put them in for too long, but the injuries catch up to us. So it's just a growing pain that we're gonna have to deal with. It's not the end of the world. It's not like we're dropping massive points where we're gonna be in a relegation battle.
we still
But
didn't lose. We
exactly.
drew.
So
Yeah.
we drew. We still managed to get a point. It's not the end of the world. Of course, it's annoying and it may potentially impact the Scudetto race at the end of the season,
Uh-huh.
but it's done and dusted. We have to move on, and we just have to keep moving in the future direction because right now, us harping on these young players is gonna take a blow to their confidence. They're already getting limited playing time, so it's just one of those things. It's growing pains, and we had to deal with it.
Yeah, and again, I think this is something I've discussed with Anthony Torgerud as well. And again, it's something that Milanisti don't want to listen to. It's not something that I necessarily wanted the direction of this club going in, right?
Hmm.
It's nice to have these players that we could develop that are super talented. Like Astor Franks probably has a higher ceiling than some of the midfielders that you already see in
Hmm.
Serie A, and that's cool. That's awesome. I always love getting talents like that. It's always important to develop these guys. He's still incredibly young. Same thing goes for Lazetic. Um, but at the end of the day, when you're coming off a championship and you are Milan, one of the biggest clubs in the world, your expectations increase. So when you get players like this, they have those expectations weighed on their shoulders. And that's kind
Hmm.
of something very difficult to adjust to. New league, new country, new play style, formation, managers, personalities to mesh with. And people just think it's this smooth transition, like you were talking about. You highlighted the Benacer struggles,
Hmm.
Tonali struggles, Rafael Leao struggles. Pierre
Yep.
Kalulu struggled when he initially started. We saw him get dusted in his first start against Immobile. And I love
Hmm.
Kalulu. I'm a big Kalulu advocate. We've seen only Tomori and Teo Hernandez hit the ground running. And those are two players that were playing at massive clubs before that got some game time
Exactly.
experience, that understand it. Teo was a part of teams that won Champions Leagues. Tomori was a part of teams. He was a Chelsea bred player through and through. He was had one
Hmm.
of the more iconic youth teams to come out of England um, in recent years. He discussed that in his Players Tribune video and interview. But you're right. And then also like we see the mesh of like what's happening up top at the striker position. Lasetic is really
Hmm.
the only option outside of Giroud. We expected more out of Divock Origi, who we hope for, and when he's been healthy, when he's played pretty well, but
Right.
he's killing us. He's killing us with this. And again, I'm not out here to defend anybody, but the best ability is availability, and that's lacking severely with Divock Origi. Um, who's been your most disappointing player? I think you could ask of you this season. Has it been Tomori? Has it been one of the defenders? Because I think he's regressed the most out of any of our starters. Um, I can't say too much outside of everyone else that's a starter. And Tamori hasn't been
Hmm.
awful. It's just kind of expected a little bit more. I think it also has to do with the Tatarusanu being in place of Mike Magnan, and there's all these little things that they need in terms of communication, and Magnan is great at that, and that's been highlighted many times. Has there been someone that's been particularly disappointing to you in that sense, or it's kind of just been like, hey, we just haven't gotten the results that we needed just yet?
I don't think anyone in my eyes has been particularly disappointing. I think this is just a rough patch. You lose Mike Mignon, who obviously is a great keeper. He definitely saved us last season, getting us
Many a
some
times.
crucial victories and crucial points. And now you have Tomori and Kalulu being thrown back into the starting lineup. They're both young players. They both save us in certain moments, but they also make mistakes because they're young and they don't have a veteran beside them. You put Tamori and Kier together, maybe there's less mistakes because of that communication, because of that experience. And then on top of that, the whole Tatarashanu situation just it doesn't help the defense because they're not as confident because they know a guy like Tatarashanu's in the back.
How many clips have we seen of players yelling at him for multiple
Mhm.
because it's the worst thing you could do as a goalkeeper is hesitate.
Yeah,
Like if you go out, you're sure of your decision that you're making. We could at least live with that. There's multiple times in which crosses come out, and it's so frustrating as to see someone who's so tall like Tatarusanu hesitate and not be aggressive enough on his jump outs, his call outs, his punches. We've seen it. It happened in the Roma match. This is why I was terrified on set pieces. Set pieces in general, it's a Milan thing. It's not strictly with Tatarusanu, is what I'm saying, but
right.
if you could sleep better at night knowing that he's not there. We've seen Zlatan yell at him and get him with an
Mhm.
angry face. I remember we were sharing that clip. It was post match when it was Milan Roma a couple years ago. If you remember the 3-3 one where
I remember that.
Donnarumma gets COVID. There's the Phantom Benacer penalty that happened. There was so much going on. Um, and again, you kind of have to point towards management. That's on management. And people like to think I don't criticize them. And Matt, we don't criticize them. But this is Tatrusanu's. Like, this is, Milan and management thinking that having a goalkeeper like this, of this quality, that has vision issues that nobody knew about somehow. I don't know how. But again, I mean, Devis Vasquez, this purchase, you might see this happen. You might see him come in. Not today. I think one of
Mhm.
these future matches, I think it's heavily considered. Again, they've been linked with a goalkeeper at Saint Etienne. The name is
Mhm.
escaping
Mhm.
me on the top of my head. I'm not going too deep into it because it's a younger player, and this
Yep.
is. I want your kind of thoughts on this now. Because of Milan don't go for what they always think is perfect for the now. What they've been investing is what they see in the future. So
Mhm.
Davis Vasquez, I've known someone who watches the Paraguayan League. I'm not going to say their name because I'm not sure, but they were mentioning how there were scouts there a couple of months ago, and I had this
Mhm.
conversation. And it's just funny because Milan, obviously, if people don't know how scouting works, they look at these guys for months on end. It's not like they
Mhm.
just like, oh, hey, yeah, we see this guy now. Like CDK was being scouted way before they invested. Franks, but all these guys are being profiled. Julian Alvarez is one of those players. Enzo was. They were there for months. People know this. But my point is, Milan only invests unless it's opportunistic for them, unless it makes sense. 100% makes sense. They're not. Milan aren't gonna just like with the Sportiello situation, for example, if Milan have to wait another 6 months to get him in, and then they could go with a short-term guy and hope for Magnan to come back, they're going to go do that. That's what they did last
Right.
year. Last January, what happened, Miguel? You remember they were sitting there saying, "We have some money to spend, but we think the squad is good enough for what we want to obtain as a goal." Everybody freaked
Mhm.
out, partially myself, but I was like, I guess we have to trust them. I didn't think we'd win the title. We end up winning the title. Um, they're not spending money this window. It's extensions, and that's it. And are you
Mhm.
satisfied with that? Is ultimately my question because it's getting mixed comments because people want upfront investments because they know we're not good enough right now to overtake Napoli. We need some fortuitous results, to put it simple.
In my opinion, I'm not satisfied that there's no movement in January, but again, I can also see where management is coming from. At this point, management is saying, "Hey, we're already in the Champions League. Let's try to advance, get more money.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do what we can in Coppa Italia." Napoli may win the league, but we all know how Napoli plays in the second half of the season. They always falter. So right now they're like, let's put our eggs in one basket and hope for the best. I think that management should have sorted out the second string goalkeeper issue last season, but I think it's something where they overlooked it and it's now coming back to bite them in the ass because now they're trying to get rid of Tatarusanu. He's not going to leave until his contract expires. So now they're scrambling to find another keeper who can play. And they signed Morante last at the end of last season,
Oh,
hoping that
it was in the
he would
middle, I think, because Magnan's wrist injury was worse, so they signed him as the
exactly.
emergency. Who he might not want to leave because the only offers from Spezia for him.
Exactly.
And again, late 30s goalkeeper. And then we go and face Ochoa, who's been lights out in the 2 matches that he's played. We know him very well on this side of the world. Um,
Hmm.
I thought he would leave that type of performance with El Tri and not with
Hmm.
Salernitana. Very annoying. Um, but you're right. It's just there's so many little things that you have to fix as a squad, and your point again with the Champions League qualification, it's always about top four. Maldini has stated this over a year ago
Hmm.
that you cannot get to the level that you want to get to in this league without owning your own stadium and missing Champions League for
Hmm.
years and expect to just spend money. Juve was able to slowly accelerate that, but if you actually go back and look at those Juve teams, they weren't investing heavily until 3 to 4 titles in. Higuain, Dybala, the sale of Pogba further pushed what they were able to reinvest. They were very smart with the way they were doing things. Carlos Tevez was $10 million. That was a player that was elevating them terrifically. Milan has done pretty good things like Giroud, but to get to that next level, everybody knows you need time for that. You need a stadium. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But it takes time, and you know this, and you have to qualify. I don't think they're in jeopardy of top four. They've
Hmm.
still been incredible. The only team that they lost to was a tough loss at home to Napoli, in which they played well as far as top teams
Right.
go. Dominated Inter, in my opinion. Dominated Juve. Dominated Roma. It was a couple of minutes of bad defensive set piece play. Um, Atalanta on the road, they just couldn't finish in that one. I think the more
Hmm.
frustrating results were the Cremonese. It was the Sassuolo. It's that kind of stuff. But it's funny, Miguel, because we have more points at this point than we did last year. Um,
Hmm.
although Napoli is at a ridiculous pace. Scudetto, scale of 1 to 10. Like, what do we get there? I personally, I just don't. I just don't think there's enough without reinforcements. Do I think we're good enough
Hmm.
to get back in this race? Absolutely. Kim and Jay's out Friday. Milan win. That's 3 more
Right.
points gained. And since we've returned, we've gained 4 points on Napoli, I believe. So again, uh, what do you think, man? It would be an incredible comeback. I was saying this as to Santangelo. I'd be more happy to win the Scudetto this year than probably last year. And I didn't think that would
Hmm.
be possible because if we come back and do it now after all the crap that they've been getting and they get the number 20, that's it's close. It's close. I mean,
Oh
what do you
yeah.
think? I think is it a top 4 expectation for you at this rate?
I think right now, I don't think top four is what we're just gonna put our eggs in. But in my opinion, I think that this is Serie A. We've seen teams falter leads because they're playing in many competitions, injuries catch up to you, suspensions, all of these things. It's not impossible. Milan could still be in this race. Now, if Napoli goes on and they have like a 10-point lead, you can say, okay, maybe Napoli are really going to win this thing. But we've seen Napoli drop points to lower tier sides in Serie A. And again, one of the things that I think we also forget is this entire process of us building, for the future has also been faltered by all of the signings that we've let walk away by free. We let Donnarumma walk away by free. We let
Mm-hmm.
Kessié walk away for free. We let Hakan walk away for free. All of those players could have got us money where we could have reinvested and got more depth and more experienced players into our squad. And that's something that management has to take the bullet for. of course, management has done a great job replacing these players and bringing other experienced players in. But like you said, Kessier, that was somebody that played almost every game for Milan, and now you don't have that, and injuries are catching up to you, and your midfield is kind of wonky now because you have a bunch of 23-year-olds playing who don't have experience.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I get that. I get that. I get that stuff. I do. Um, I just understand where they're coming from with like certain, like they did their best to re-sign these guys. I
Hmm.
think I was in kind of slightly in favor of selling Kessie in January to Spurs. I
Me
really kind of
too.
wanted to like something like that because I thought like, yo, I didn't think we were going to win the title, so I was just like, this is enough to get to top four. I was like, I just care about
Hmm.
top four again. If we could get it twice in a row, that's fantastic. Um, the Donnarumma and Hakan ones, my thing is like, we sell them. I don't see us getting an immediate replacement by the way we're investing
Hmm.
to get back in top four. I think that was vital for us.
Right.
I get that, but you're right though. It would have been a lot more flexible. I'm not denying that. And it's funny
Hmm.
because they sell well when they sell. They do a pretty decent
Exactly.
job. It's really not that bad. It's just they don't do it often. Piontek,
Hmm.
I still don't know how we almost broke even on it. That's incredible. Paqueta, we get a percentage of the sale with West Ham. We've salvaged that.
Yeah.
Duarte, we did not salvage. Suso, incredible. And Cutrone. The amount that we got from those two alone was awesome because it was
Hmm.
a plus Valenza because we got Suso on the free all those years ago from Liverpool, and then also
Hmm.
Cutrone was a youth system player. But we could
Academy
look at
product.
this,
Yep.
yeah, and we look at this schedule. So again, Coppa Italia, Serie A, Lecce, Inter, Lazio, Sassuolo. These are not easy matches. These are not easy matches.
Hmm.
Sassuolo is the first one of the second half, so we won't see them again. Of course, we have them at 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 for you. Uh, the fixtures are not easy, man. It doesn't kind of
Yeah.
get easy until March. Easier. These next 2 months, it's everything. These next few weeks right here, it's not everything, but it's a massive part in which we could look into this window of what we could see Milan like.
This is gonna make or break us this next month.
I mean, look at it. You have Atalanta, Spurs. I mean, Torino, difficult regardless. Inter, we have a derby. We have two derbies. We have Lazio.
Hmm.
I love Leao against Lazio. Um, I mean, Sassuolo was annoying against us. Atalanta against at home. Monza. I mean, they're going to give it everything when they're at home.
Hmm.
Then it's Fiorentina should be doable. The Spurs one, but again, like how you line up in that Fiorentina one, how we position against Spurs. Do we have a really good chance to advance to the round of to the quarterfinals? And if we do, like, how do we approach the Fiorentina match? And then
Hmm.
again, you get to April. April's looking up. It's not the most difficult, but the front and back ends of it, it's Napoli to start, Roma to finish, and then we're looking at Juve on the second to final match day. Who knows what that's going to be entailing? Again, I'd feel more positive if we had the reinforcements, but maybe it is these guys we get back from injury, which is a lot of
Hmm.
them sooner than later, mind you, for
Right.
everybody interested. I think the only longer term players right now it's Magnan and Zlatan. The rest should be back by at least are hoping the Super Coppa or the Lazio match. Um, I don't know, man. I think it's kind of a lot to ask. There needs to be substantial player growth in season.
Hmm.
Basically, what I'm saying is CDK needs to ramp it up, slowly building confidence. I'm more of a patient person. Others are not. I'm not sure where you fall in line with the CDK stuff. I know you're more of a patient guy than you are critical. I
Hmm.
mean, who are you looking towards the second half of the season that we need to break out? We know Benacer, Teo, Leao are there. Giroud is there. Brahim has played well this season. It's definitely his best at Milan. We'll see if
Hmm.
they renegotiate it. There's rumors that they're going back in, that Di Marzio said yesterday. Who are you looking towards? Is it a defender, or is it just simply the return of Magnan and Zlatan could easily turn all this around?
I think personally, you want Leao to continue to do what he's already been doing. Him and Giroud. I think you need Tonali and Benacer to be the defensive rocks that they've been in midfield. Um, and then if you get Mike Mignon, that helps the defense massively with just confidence. And
Hmm.
if that happens, I think that Milan can definitely go on a streak here, as they've done in the past. We've gone, what, 10, 14 games unbeaten in Serie A before. We can do it again. Um, Zlatan, I think he's really just there for the moral support and to pick up the younger guys and be like, hey, I see you in training every day. I know what you're capable of. This was a bad result. Let's put it behind us and let's keep going because we have to do this for the fans. We have to do this for Milan. And
Right.
then Pioli's gonna work his magic. Pioli's a guy who's not gonna give up on his guys. He loves them to death. He created this family atmosphere. Everything is gonna be okay. But we need everybody to step up in their respective positions. We're gonna need Krunic to step up in the games like against Torino and Hellas Verona when he comes back from
Yeah.
injury because
Hmm. Hmm.
those are the games that helped us win the Scudetto last season. So everybody just needs to come back healthy, play their roles, and just give it their all. And I think we should be fine. That this is exactly what we did last season. Last season at this half of the season, Inter was leading the Scudetto race, and then what happened? They faltered, and we came back and we won the title.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, there's, like we said, the gap is bigger. Juve is on this
Hmm.
incredible pace, but I think Santangelo made a great point about this when I was talking to him. Regression to the mean. 8 straight wins is incredible. Credit to them.
Hmm.
They haven't conceded since they faced us in Serie A. Um, or if they have, they've very minimal amounts. My
Hmm.
thing is just like they did all that just to tie us. It took that much. They're still in Europa League. They have injuries still. I think they're very fortunate that Kim Min Jae is probably out on Friday against
Very
Napoli,
fortunate.
or so with the match for Napoli. It's very fortunate for them. Juve, I think, are a top four threat. Make no mistake
Hmm.
about it. The team with the largest wage bill by far should be doing this.
Right.
Wow, sorry for your expectations, guys. Just I find it very funny how Juventini are just like acting kind of like this underdog, as if they haven't been spending more money than anyone else has. Because they
Hmm.
still do. They still do. They bought a striker for 70 million in January last year, and we're
Hmm.
supposed to sit here and say like, "Oh, poor Juve." Brought bought Bremer over the summer. I mean, come on now. Like this is what Allegri does. He's grinding out these results, but when it
Hmm.
mattered in the biggest of big matches this year so far for Juve, they faltered. And that means Champions League.
That's true.
That means they play well against Inter, don't get me wrong. They beat Lazio. Good for them. I have more question marks about them. I'm sorry. I think that's fair to say. There's 20 something matches left. They're on a historical pace that the BBC defense never achieved.
Hmm.
And this is a harder Serie A now than it was then, with those teams.
Exactly.
So it's been very, very impressive defensively. Very impressive. But over the course of highest paid, yeah, yes, Sharma, yes, Sharma, yes, Sharma. You get it, you get it. I won't go at Inter
That's
because you
true.
should technically be higher, but you get it. You're right though, and Sharma and I have talked this on Bepe's channel, and we don't even try and go at Bepe like that. But I think objectively speaking, Juve should be here. They paid
Exactly.
Wo Chesney the most money out of any goalkeeper in Serie A. Bonucci paid more than any defender in Serie A. The purchase of Bremer more than anything you've seen. Di Maria, right wing, gets paid more than anyone in the league as a winger. Okay, Chiesa getting back from injury, understandable. I won't rip that guy. Rabiot's getting paid more than any midfielder in the league. Like the list goes on, guys. Like they get everything. There shouldn't be an excuse for them when the
Exactly.
expectations are where they're at for Juve. For me, it's like I'm just not. I'm not gonna just be like standing up and clap. I'll stand up and applaud what they're doing defensively because I think that deserves
Of
respect.
course.
But in general, come on, man. Come on, man. Like it's
They
it's
should be
it's
pushing for the
amazing.
Scudetto at this point.
They're purchasing for it. They're buying it.
Exactly.
Bremer cost more than any player that Milan has purchased since like Rui Costa.
Hmm.
What else do you want me to say to that? What else do you want from me? We had a sale of a club over the summer where they're not reinvesting with the new ownership. and we're supposed to say like, oh yeah, you were. Listen, we won the league. We should be finishing ahead of them. I do think we're better than them.
Hmm.
We proved it head to head. They haven't beaten us in Serie A in a couple of seasons. Um,
Hmm.
when they did, that was literally with a C team lineup when it was Dybala and Chiesa. So like whatever, they were still a good team then. Um, I don't know. I think this is got a lot of potential for Milan to do well. Um, kind of keeping it quick to wrap up now towards the end here. We could get some predictions for today if you want. I'm not all that confident, if I'm honest with you. I think Torino, with the lineup that they could field in this one, scares me. Just because of they have more to play up for than Milan does. And the lineup
Okay.
that we're supposedly coming out with right now isn't exactly foolproof 100% going to be Torino. We're just not convinced by that. I think probably the difference in quality is our substitutes, and we'll see how they go.
Hmm.
Um, what are you feeling here, man? I feel like it's kind of a low scoring type of game.
Yeah, I'm feeling it's gonna be a 1-0 victory for us. Something where, we keep the clean sheet going into halftime and maybe Leao comes off the bench and bags one in like the 80th minute for us, and hopefully we make it through because this is a game where you don't want extra time at all. And with the players that we're fielding, it's looking like it's going to be a late goal that's going to seal this game for us. And
What do
also,
you
I'm a
got?
bit worried because Torino have two ex Milan players. They have Ricardo Rodriguez, and then they have Pietro Pellegrini. And you know how ex Milan players
Like,
always show up against us. I'm worried about those two players are going to shine in this game, and it might just hurt us. But we can always just hope for the best, and hopefully CDK shines. I still got hope for that guy. I know he's capable of some very fantastic things. So I'm hoping this is a good game for him, and hope for the best. Hopefully we win.
yeah, hopefully. I think winning this competition would be massive for us. I think.
Hmm.
Uh, so we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna go with like 1-0
Yeah.
Milan. I don't know. I think this will be like a goal from like I have no idea who will score. Maybe Teo off the bench. No clue. I'm not super confident in this one. I don't have a great read on it. But I'm very excited for this weekend against Lecce as well. Miguel, plug everything that you got. I've had your Twitter on the handle underneath
Mhm.
for on the ticker, excuse me, for this entire time, so everybody could see where they follow you there. YouTube videos, other work, Instagram. What else you got? You got a very fun TikTok. It's not football
Yeah.
necessarily, but you do different things on there.
Yeah, I mean, if you want football news, I would say just follow me on Twitter. That's really where all my football stuff is. I'm definitely going to be writing a lot about MLS this season and Chicago Fire FC. So stay tuned for that. We've signed a couple players. I'm gonna do a season preview and hopefully we make the playoffs this season. But other than that, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you can go through Martino's followers and you'll find me there. TikTok as well if you want to see me in a different, less serious note. But Twitter is where you'll find all the football related and the more serious content for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Twitter is yeah, whatever. But yeah, check out all that content there. Football Italia stuff is always great for Miguel. Always appreciate having you on here. Hopefully, we get you back with Matt soon. Um, maybe one of these weekends we'll have you with us. Appreciate Sabrina, Fabio, John tuning in, Uncle Sharma. Go and follow all those people on social media. They're great. If you have not already, follow Miguel, follow Matt at Matt_Santangelo. You can follow me at Martino Puccio. Everything, everywhere. For all that kind of stuff. By the way, that movie won a good amount of awards at the Golden Globes last night. Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's a great one, especially if you're kind of like first generation American, like myself. If you have immigrant parents, I think it's a really it. I think it speaks more to that crowd of people where everything kind of gets mixed up. I know your parents were born over there, or they came here, or what was
Yeah,
what's that?
my mom came here early 20s, so I am first
Oh
generation as
wow.
well.
Okay, yeah. So you're kind of I'm like 1.5. My dad was here, so but it's still same things. Highly suggest it. The kid from Goonies won a Golden Globe, and Steven Spielberg gave him a standing ovation. He was the father and everything everywhere at once, all at once. So it's really cool, full circle moment there. But yeah. Otherwise, thank you so much, Miguel, for coming on. Everyone, follow all the social handles here as well. Appreciate you, and see you after the match today.